The massive alien ship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. Its sleek, pristine hull gleamed in the distant sunlight as it began its initial scans of the planetary system ahead. On the bridge of the vessel, First Observer Reed of the Collective stood watching the main display with growing disgust. "High Commander, you need to see this," Reed called out, his crystalline eyes reflecting the data streams flowing across the screen. "We've found another developing world, but this one is different." High Commander Oak approached the display, his tall figure casting a shadow over the shorter observer. The commander's expression shifted from interest to confusion as he studied the readings. "What exactly am I looking at, First Observer?" Oak asked, his voice deep and measured. "It's their orbital space, sir. I've never seen anything like it. The third planet is practically surrounded by artificial debris, thousands upon thousands of objects, most of them completely non-functional. They've turned their own orbital space into a garbage dump." The High Commander leaned closer to the display, watching as the computer highlighted the countless pieces of space debris orbiting Earth. Old rocket stages, defunct satellites, fragments of metal, and countless other pieces of human-made waste cluttered the space around the blue planet. "How primitive," Oak muttered, shaking his head. "A species so careless with their own environment that they pollute even the space around their world. Begin detailed scans. I want to know everything about their technological level." As the ship moved closer to Earth, more data began flowing in. The Collective's advanced sensors picked up radio signals, television broadcasts, and internet communications. They watched as humans went about their daily lives, seemingly oblivious to the mess they'd created above their heads. "Sir," one of the technical officers called out, "I'm detecting approximately 23,000 tracked objects larger than 10 centimeters in their orbit. Their own space monitoring systems can barely keep track of it all. They've had multiple collisions between their satellites due to this debris." High Commander Oak settled into his command chair, a smile playing across his face. "Perfect. This will be easier than we thought. A species that can't even manage their own orbital space won't be able to mount any significant defense against our forces." The ship continued its approach, maintaining a safe distance while gathering intelligence. They observed human space stations, satellites, and the occasional rocket launch. Everything they saw confirmed their initial assessment. Earth was a technological backwater, barely managing to maintain a presence in space. "Prepare a report for the Collective Council," Oak ordered. "Recommend this planet for immediate acquisition. Their resources will be useful, and clearly, they need proper management. We'd be doing them a favor, really." First Observer Reed nodded and began compiling the report, but something caught his eye. A piece of debris, just a small satellite fragment, seemed to adjust its course slightly. He blinked, reviewed the data, but found nothing unusual in the second analysis. "Sir," Reed hesitated, "should we perhaps conduct more thorough scans? Something feels." "Feel?" Oak interrupted with a laugh. "First Observer, we don't make military decisions based on feelings. Look at them. They're literally swimming in their own garbage. This will be the easiest acquisition the Collective has made in decades." Reed nodded and returned to his work, pushing aside his concerns. After all, what could a primitive species that couldn't even keep their orbital space clean possibly do against the mighty Collective? As the alien ship prepared its report, a small piece of debris adjusted its position ever so slightly, its embedded sensors recording everything. Deep beneath the Earth's surface, in a heavily shielded command center, a computer registered the movement and began executing a long-prepared protocol. The humans were waiting. They had been waiting for a very long time. The Collective's science vessel, Starseeker, moved carefully through Earth's cluttered orbit. Its advanced shields deflected small pieces of debris as the ship conducted its detailed survey of humanity's space junk. Dr. Bell, the ship's lead scientist, watched the readings with growing interest. "Captain, these readings are odd," she said, adjusting her instruments. "Some of these debris clusters don't follow natural orbital patterns." Captain Pine looked up from his command station, his expression bored. Probably just the result of their primitive tracking systems. They can barely manage their own satellites. Dr. Bell wasn't convinced. She had studied hundreds of developing worlds during her career, but something about Earth's orbital space felt different. She focused her scanners on a cluster of what appeared to be old rocket stages. "Look at this, Captain," she pointed to her screen. "These old rocket bodies should have fallen into random orbits over time, but they're maintaining oddly stable positions relative to each other." Could be coincidence. Pine dismissed her concerns with a wave of his hand. "The High Commander wants this report finished quickly. The invasion fleet is already assembling." Deep in the bowels of the science vessel, a junior researcher named Green worked alone at his station. His job was to analyze the composition of Earth's space debris, but he had noticed something fascinating. Many pieces of what appeared to be simple metal fragments contained traces of advanced materials that shouldn't exist in such garbage. Green pulled up another scan, this time of what seemed to be an old communications satellite. Its outer shell was deteriorated and covered in space dust, looking exactly like what you'd expect from abandoned equipment. But underneath, "This can't be right," he muttered, running the scan again. The satellite's internal structure was far more complex than its exterior suggested. He found similar patterns in other pieces of junk, sophisticated electronics hidden beneath weathered exteriors. Meanwhile, on Earth, in a deep underground facility, Major West studied the holographic display showing the alien science vessel's position. Around him, technicians monitored countless sensors disguised as space debris, tracking every movement of the alien ship. "They're scanning the Beta cluster now," one technician reported. "Stealth systems are holding. They haven't detected our active components." West nodded, a slight smile on his face. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this moment, hiding their true capabilities in plain sight. What looked like dangerous space debris to the aliens was actually humanity's first line of defense. Back on the Starseeker, Dr. Bell's concern grew as she compiled her report. The debris field around Earth wasn't random. It formed patterns, like a giant puzzle she couldn't quite solve. But with Captain Pine pushing for quick results, she had to finish her assessment. "Final report ready, Captain," she announced reluctantly. "Though I still recommend additional scans of sectors 7 through 12. The energy readings there are inconsistent with simple space junk." "Noted and dismissed," Pine replied sharply. "The High Commander doesn't need a detailed analysis of their garbage. Prepare to transmit your findings to the fleet." As the Starseeker prepared to send its report, Green made one final discovery. Hidden among the debris was a network of what appeared to be simple reflective fragments. But when he analyzed their positioning, he realized they formed a complex grid around the planet. "Dr. Bell," he called out hesitantly, "I think you should see this." But it was too late. Captain Pine had already transmitted their initial findings to the invasion fleet. The collected ships would soon arrive, confident in their assessment of Earth's weakness, completely unaware that every piece of trash they had scanned was watching them, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal its true nature. In his underground command center, Major West received the signal he had been waiting for. "They took the bait," he announced to his staff. "Prepare Phase 2. Operation Trojan Horse was about to begin." The collective's invasion fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. 50 warships, their hulls gleaming with power, arranged themselves in an attack pattern above Earth. High Commander Oak stood proudly on his flagship's bridge, watching the supposedly primitive planet below. "Begin the standard intimidation protocol," Oak ordered. "Let's show these humans what real space power looks like." The fleet's energy weapons powered up, creating a spectacular light show visible from Earth's surface. The collective always enjoyed this part, watching primitive species panic at their first display of superior technology. In his underground command center, Major West watched the alien fleet's formation with a calm smile. "They positioned themselves exactly where we wanted," he said to his staff. "Send the activation signal." A technician pressed a series of buttons, sending a seemingly harmless data burst into space. To any observers, it would have looked like ordinary satellite communication noise. High Commander Oak was about to give the order for their first demonstration strike when First Observer Reed's console suddenly lit up with warnings. "Sir, multiple objects are moving," Reed shouted, his fingers flying across his control panel. "The debris field. It's changing." Around the collective fleet, pieces of what they had dismissed as space junk began to move with purpose. Old satellite bodies split open, revealing gleaming weapon systems. Clusters of debris transformed into defensive platforms. What had appeared to be random clouds of metal fragments organized themselves into precise geometric patterns. "Impossible," Oak stammered. "They're just primitive garbage collectors. Their technology can't." His words were cut off by the first strike. The derelict rocket stage that had been drifting nearby suddenly ignited, not with primitive chemical rockets, but with an advanced plasma drive. It accelerated straight toward one of the collective's support ships, its outer shell burning away to reveal a sophisticated kinetic weapon underneath. Evasive action. Oak screamed, but it was too late. The weapon struck its target with devastating accuracy, its supposedly primitive exterior concealing a core of exotic materials that bypassed the alien ship shields completely. All around the fleet, humanity's carefully disguised weapons revealed themselves. Ancient weather satellites transformed into energy weapon platforms. Fields of debris consolidated into defensive screens that absorbed and reflected the collective's energy weapons. "Sir," an alien officer called out, "we're detecting advanced technology signatures everywhere. The debris field, it's all fake." Major West's voice boomed across every communication channel, broadcasting to the alien fleet in their own language. "Welcome to Earth, Collective. We've been expecting you." The alien fleet tried to regroup, but they were surrounded. What they had thought was a random distribution of space junk turned out to be a carefully planned trap. Every piece of trash had been positioned over decades to create the perfect kill box. "Status report," Oak demanded, watching as two more of his ships succumbed to attacks from supposedly harmless debris. "Sir, we've lost 15 ships. Their weapons, they're not primitive at all. They're using technology we've never even seen before." In the command center, West turned to his tactical officer. "Show them Phase 3. Suddenly, the International Space Station, which the aliens had dismissed as primitive, began to change. Its solar panels folded into new configurations, and hidden weapon ports opened along its length. The station's true form emerged, a massive battle platform that had been hiding in plain sight for decades. Oak watched in horror as his mighty fleet was being decimated by what they had dismissed as garbage. "Full retreat," he ordered. "Get us out of here." But the humans weren't done. As the collective ships tried to flee, they found their hyperspace drives wouldn't engage. The debris field they had so casually dismissed had another purpose. It generated an invisible web that trapped their ships in normal space. "Perhaps," Major West said to his staff, watching the aliens' desperate attempts to escape, "they'll think twice next time before judging a species by its trash." The battle for Earth had only just begun, and humanity's greatest weapons were still waiting to be revealed. In a secure briefing room deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Stone stood before a group of stunned alien prisoners. Among them were Captain Pine and Dr. Bell from the science vessel, along with several officers from the defeated collective fleet. The wall behind him displayed images of Earth's orbital defense system, now fully revealed. "For 50 years, Stone explained, his voice firm but not unkind, we knew someone would come. We knew they would judge us by our mess. So we turned that judgment into our greatest weapon." The general pressed a button, and a hologram appeared, showing the evolution of Earth's orbital defense system. What the aliens had dismissed as careless waste management was revealed as a masterpiece of military deception. "Each piece of debris was carefully designed," he continued. "Those old rocket stages you scanned. Inside each one, is a prototype engine that our best scientists developed. We needed somewhere to test them without drawing attention. What better place than in plain sight? Dr. Bell leaned forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her shame. The irregular energy readings I detected. Yes, Stone nodded. Those were our quantum communication tests. Every piece of space junk is connected to our central command through quantum entanglement. That's why you never detected our control signals. In orbit, cleanup crews from both species worked together, now with human technology fully visible. The transformation was stunning. Patches of seeming debris shifted and combined, revealing sleek defense platforms and monitoring stations. What had looked like a chaotic mess of space junk was actually a carefully orchestrated defensive web. Look here, Stone pointed to a new hologram. Remember that cloud of paint chips and metal fragments that damaged 3 of your ships? Each piece was a micro-robot, programmed to target specific weaknesses in known alien ship designs. We've been studying visitors like you for decades. Captain Pine, his pride still stinging from defeat, spoke up. But the cost, the resources needed to maintain such a deception. Major West, who had just entered the room, laughed. Actually, it was cheaper than building obvious defensive systems. Every nation on Earth contributed their actual space junk. We just improved it. That satellite that took out your flagship, it was originally launched to study weather patterns in 1985. When it officially failed, we gave it an upgrade. The hologram shifted again, showing the International Space Station transforming. Our finest achievement in hiding in plain sight, Stone said proudly. Every time you watched us slowly build and maintain it, you were actually watching us construct a battle station. Those clumsy spacewalks, training exercises, those supply missions, weapon and shield installations. One of the alien officers shook his head in disbelief. But we detected no energy signatures powerful enough for such weapons. That's because we powered everything through wireless energy transfer, West explained. Those strange patterns in our debris field, they're actually power relay stations. The energy was always there. We just kept it moving, making it look like random radiation from Earth. Stone turned off the hologram and faced the prisoners directly. Humanity learned long ago that looking weak can be a strength. While you built mighty fleets and showed off your power, we built a defense system that no one could see until it was too late. Dr. Bell had been making notes on a pad. The level of coordination, the planning involved. How did you manage it? Simple necessity, Stone replied. When you're a primitive species expecting visitors, you learn to be creative. Every failed satellite launch taught us something. Every piece of actual space debris gave us ideas for hiding our true capabilities. As if to emphasize his point, a large piece of debris outside the briefing room's window suddenly shifted, its battered exterior dissolving to reveal a pristine defensive platform underneath. Now, Stone said with a slight smile, shall we discuss terms for a more equal relationship between our peoples? Admiral Black stood on the bridge of the HSS Phoenix, Earth's first official interstellar warship. What made it special wasn't just its advanced technology. It was that until 6 hours ago, it had appeared to be nothing more than a large collection of space debris orbiting Mars. Status report on the collective reinforcements, he commanded, watching as his crew operated stations that had been hidden under false panels of space rust for years. 3 fleet groups approaching through hyperspace, sir, replied Officer White. They still think they're coming to rescue their invasion force. The Admiral smiled. The collective hadn't bothered to decode the distress signals from their defeated fleet. They simply assumed their superior forces needed help against a primitive species. That assumption would cost them dearly. Launch Operation Recycler, Black ordered. Across the solar system, humanity's hidden forces sprang into action. What the collective had dismissed as random fields of debris around every planet and moon suddenly came alive. Years of launching failed missions to Mars, Venus, and the outer planets had allowed humans to position weapons platforms throughout the entire solar system. The first collective reinforcement fleet emerged from hyperspace near Jupiter. Their scanners immediately detected the scattered debris field, a common sight in this primitive system. What they didn't detect was that each piece of that debris was actually a microship waiting for this exact moment. Enemy fleet in position, White reported, activating the Jupiter defense grid. Thousands of tiny ships, each no bigger than a coffee can, suddenly powered up. They had been disguised as fragments from supposedly failed Jupiter missions over the decades. Now they swarmed the alien ships like angry bees, their small size making them nearly impossible to target. "Sir," an alien commander shouted aboard their flagship, "these devices, they're cutting through our hulls, but they're too small for our weapons to lock onto." The second collective fleet arrived near Mars, expecting to launch a surprise attack on Earth from behind. Instead, they found themselves face to face with the Phoenix and its escort fleet, ships that had been disguised as mining operations and defunct satellites. "Main weapons ready," Black announced. "Let's show them what human engineering can really do." The Phoenix's outer shell, previously looking like patches of connected space junk, smoothed into gleaming armor. Weapon ports opened along its length, revealing guns made from what the aliens had thought were old solar panels and antennae. The third collective fleet, the largest of all, emerged near Earth's moon. They had hoped to overwhelm Earth's defenses with sheer numbers. Instead, they watched in horror as the moon's surface seemed to shift. "Lunar Base 1, you have permission to reveal," Black commanded through the comms. What had appeared to be natural craters on the moon's surface opened up, revealing massive cannon emplacements. Humanity's primitive moon missions had been cover for constructing the largest fixed weapons platform in the solar system. The battle was swift and decisive. The collective's reinforcements, expecting to face primitive planetary defenses, found themselves caught in a killing field of advanced technology, all of it hidden as garbage and failed missions until the perfect moment. In the Phoenix's command center, Admiral Black received reports of collective ships surrendering across the solar system. Their mighty space forces had been utterly defeated by weapons they couldn't even see until it was too late. "Send word to Earth Command," he ordered. "Operation Recycler is a success. The solar system is secure." Officer White looked up from her station with a grin. "Should we show them our final surprise, sir? The one hiding in the asteroid belt?" Black chuckled. "No, let's keep that one hidden." After all, he watched as another collective ship surrendered to what they had thought was just a cloud of space debris. You never know when you might need a few more tricks up your sleeve. The day Earth revealed its true power would be remembered across the galaxy. The species that turned trash into triumph had earned its place among the stars. In the grand meeting hall of the collective's High Council, silence fell as Dr. Bell presented her final report. The massive screens behind her showed detailed analyses of Earth's defense systems, each revelation more shocking than the last. "We didn't just underestimate their technology," she explained to the stunned council members. "We fundamentally misunderstood their entire approach to space warfare." The screens displayed images of what appeared to be simple space debris, then transformed to show their true nature. A broken satellite became a stealth fighter. A cluster of old solar panels revealed itself as an energy weapon array. A field of metal fragments turned into a complex sensor network. "Their greatest weapon wasn't the technology," Dr. Bell continued. "It was patience. Every failed launch we mocked, planned. Every piece of debris we sneered at, positioned perfectly. They spent 50 years building a defense system that looked like garbage." High Commander Oak, now stripped of his rank after the failed invasion, spoke from his position in the audience. "But how did they hide the energy signatures? Our scans should have detected something." Dr. Bell pressed a button, showing a new diagram. "They developed what they call cold technology, systems that use minimal power until activated. Most of their weapons were actually powered down completely, only waking up when needed. The power sources were hidden in what looked like natural radiation from their sun." The council chamber erupted in murmurs as she showed video footage from the battle. Tiny pieces of debris combining into powerful weapons, old space stations transforming into battleships, clouds of space junk becoming impenetrable shield walls. But here's the most remarkable part, Dr. Bell said, her voice filled with newfound respect. Everything they built served multiple purposes. Those weapons platforms, they're also cleaning up actual space debris. Their defense grid, it doubles as a communication network for their colonies. They didn't just hide their military. They hid it inside actually useful civilian infrastructure. One council member stood up. You mean while we were building dedicated warships, they were building multipurpose systems that could switch from peaceful to military use instantly? Exactly, Dr. Bell nodded. Their entire space program was dual purpose. Every piece of technology could serve both civilian and military needs. It's why we couldn't spot their military buildup, because everything they built was actually being used for peaceful purposes until the moment they needed weapons. The screen showed the International Space Station's transformation again. Look at this. For decades, they really were doing scientific research here. The weapon systems were built into the research equipment. Their astronauts were both scientists and soldiers. Every spacewalk really did maintain the station, while also secretly installing defenses. Back on Earth, General Stone watched the broadcast of the council meeting with satisfaction. Beside him, Major West was reviewing reports from their newest defense installations, still disguised as debris fields. They finally understand, Stone said, but they still don't know everything. West nodded. Should we tell them about the deep space platforms? The ones disguised as comets? Not yet, Stone replied with a slight smile. Let them think they've learned all our secrets. Sometimes, the best place to hide is in plain sight, even after you've been discovered. In the council chamber, Dr. Bell concluded her presentation. The humans have a saying, one person's trash is another person's treasure. They took this idea and turned it into a military doctrine. We saw trash because we expected to see trash. They showed us exactly what we expected to see, and we fell for it completely. The council members sat in thoughtful silence, considering the implications. Humanity hadn't just defeated their invasion. They had revolutionized the very concept of space warfare. And somewhere in Earth orbit, more debris continued to accumulate, leaving everyone to wonder, what else were the humans hiding in plain sight? 6 months after the failed invasion, the collective's diplomatic ship approached Earth's orbit. This time, instead of scanning for weaknesses, they were here to sign a historic peace treaty. The ship's crew watched nervously as pieces of debris moved aside, creating a clear path to the new International Peace Station. Ambassador Bridge stood at the station's main viewport, watching the alien ship dock. Around him, the station's true nature remained partially hidden, a blend of diplomatic facility and defensive platform. The humans had learned that sometimes the best way to keep peace was to maintain a few surprises. They're ready for the tour, said Major West, who had been promoted after his role in defending Earth. Are we showing them everything? Not quite everything, Bridge smiled, but enough to make sure they understand our new relationship. The alien delegation, led by the newly appointed High Speaker Leaf, entered the station's main hall. Their eyes widened at the sight of the station's interior. What looked like simple support beams were actually disguised sensor arrays. Decorative wall panels could transform into shield generators. Even the potted plants in the corners contained sophisticated atmospheric analysis systems. Welcome to humanity's new approach to space, Bridge announced, where form and function are not always what they seem. High Speaker Leaf bowed slightly. Your people have taught the collective a valuable lesson. We came to your system thinking we were superior, only to find that we had become blind to true innovation. The tour continued through the station. Bridge showed them how humans had developed technology that could switch between peaceful and defensive purposes instantly. A medical-based scanning equipment doubled as targeting systems. Environmental filters could generate defensive screens. Even the station's waste recycling system could be used to produce emergency fuel for weapons. The most important thing we learned, Bridge explained, was that true advancement doesn't mean building bigger ships or more powerful weapons. It means building smarter, finding ways to make every piece of technology serve multiple purposes. In a surprising gesture of trust, Bridge led them to a special demonstration area. "Watch this," he said, pressing a button. Outside the station's window, a field of debris suddenly came together, pieces connecting like a giant puzzle. Within minutes, it had formed a small but complete research outpost. "Modular construction using disguised components," West explained. "We can build anything we need, anywhere in space, using pieces that look like nothing special until they're activated." High Speaker Leaf watched in amazement. "And you're willing to share this technology with us?" "Some of it," Bridge nodded. "We believe in peace through understanding." But he gestured to a distant cluster of debris that seemed to shimmer slightly. "We'll keep a few secrets, just in case." The peace treaty was signed that day, but it was more than just a diplomatic document. It was an acknowledgement of a new era in space development. The collective agreed to help Earth clean up actual space debris, while learning humanity's efficient approach to dual-purpose technology. Back in his office after the ceremony, Bridge looked at a small piece of metal on his desk, a fragment from the first satellite humanity had ever launched. "You know," West said, picking up the fragment, "some aliens still think we're just really good at hiding weapons in trash." Bridge laughed. "Let them think that. The truth is much simpler. We learn to see the potential in everything, no matter how small or broken it seems. That's humanity's real secret weapon." As if to emphasize his point, a cloud of debris outside the window briefly formed into the shape of a hand giving a peace sign, then scattered back into apparent randomness. The age of deception was over, but the age of innovation had just begun. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, countless pieces of not-quite debris continued their silent watch, ready to protect Earth while serving as a constant reminder. Never judge a civilization by what they leave behind, or what they appear to throw away.